All right, everyone, waking up to Hassan Piker apparently using a shock collar on his dog during a live stream and then spurging about it. It's not necessarily what I expected to wake up to for a main news story, but I thought I would weigh in on this one because animal abuse is abhorrent. And I'm not really surprised to see this kind of behavior from someone who is, a commie, because leftists are very violent people sometimes and do irrational things. And people are like, oh, I always did wonder, why is it that his dog just sort of sits there the entire time while he's rambling about how evil America is and stuff like that, and shouting, getting into shouting matches and stuff like that? And now I think we know why. It's because he's abusing his animal and won't let it leave its spot. And some people were trying to run like the apology tour thing from, well, it wasn't that bad. This is not animal abuse. This is just dog training. I've not heard of anything outside of like military law enforcement security, like when dogs are being trained in for scenarios in which violence may actually occur. So the dog might need to be able to sit, stay, no, don't sick that person, even if they're being an asshole. But that person, they need to be sicked because security work and stuff like that. And so that kind of training might be necessary to prevent a scenario in which a poorly trained animal is potentially getting into a dust up with a person, and maybe they're carrying like a switchblade or something like that, or they've got a gun, and you send the animal in. That would be different. This dog, as far as I know, is not training to be an FBI bomb sniffer or something like that. So this is not normal, to be clear. And it looks like Hassan was just mildly distracted by the fact that the dog even moved to begin with. This is why I generally don't have the cats in the room when I'm recording, because you see the cat doing something out of the corner of your eye, it takes your focus on what you're doing. You could, number one, allow the dog to go out elsewhere. Number two, have another doggo spot where doggo can be while you're live streaming, but that would defeat Hassan's apparent purpose, which is just to have the dog as a living decoration. So this is not really a pet, this is more like to show off, I guess. Oh, here's the soft side of Hassan Piker, which is exactly what happened here. And it is a shock collar, by the way. That is what happened. You get a good view of it from the side. It's quite clear that that's what happened. So I find it disgraceful. I don't know why anyone is attempting to defend this behavior other than they're part of like a commie cult of personality, and it pains them to bring them to themselves to admit that somebody that they ideologically agree with can do disgusting shit. It makes it difficult, I think, for Hassan Piker's large audience because they want to hear some weirdo rambling about how evil the United States is and how Donald Trump is Hitler and stuff generally attendant to that. And the quality of political discourse from the left has dwindled of late. Now, it used to be a time, young whippersnappers, let me tell you, used to be that back in the day, left-wing commentators, they were the ones having fun. Then, for some strange reason, the meme paradigm sort of inverted, and now much of the left-wing content is just like, it's really boring and watered down, whereas you get, hilarious stuff from people that are more on the, or at least outside of the left, I would say. Neoliberals, not accounted for, they tend to be quite boring as well. And it's sad to see another case of animal abuse, and he'll probably skate on it, nothing will be done about it, he can keep shocking his dog. The funny part, though, with this particular exchange is that afterwards he's like, oh man, I bet this is going to end up clipped for Trump's little baby desk and stuff like that. I think you're giving yourself undue importance. I also think that you're going to get raked over the coals for shocking your dog for literally doing nothing. It looked like it was trying to come out of its bed, maybe had to go shit or something like that. And then, as soon as Hassan starts turning, and the dog got nervous and went back to its spot. Well, that's not when you shock them anyway. If you're going to use that as a form of thing, if they've returned to their spot, what further gripe do you have? The dog moved? Oh, you moved a little bit too much, woofy. I'm really, really sorry about that. Bzz, bzz. It's not particularly moral. It doesn't seem like ethical treatment of an animal. Having the animal just sit there in one room, unable to do anything. Like, you're not allowed to eat, you're not allowed to piss. I mean, isn't that kind of like being in jail, I suppose, at some point? This is why I don't like it when people have birds in cages and stuff like that. It's just sad more than anything else, and it is abusive. I realize that sometimes there may be no alternative. Yeah, the bird is a rescue; it can't fly or anything like that, and we've got cats around and stuff, and so it's to protect the bird or something like that. But it's still sad. Maybe Hassan should put the shock collar on himself and give himself a couple of zaps on a live stream so that he can show us that it's not really a big thing. No, it's not overmodulated or anything like that. Because you could hear the snap of the electricity as the dog's paw literally curls. That's fairly high voltage there that you're dealing with. That's not just it gives them a little vibration or something. They have those as well. The point is not to harm the animal. That indeed is a form. I mean, you're not eating the animal after doing so, so I would class it as abuse. He doesn't. Well, he might eat his dog. I don't know. Or dogs halal? I'm actually not 100% sure. So Muslims tend not to get along very well with dogs, actually, in some cases. Now, I realize we're talking about more religious Islamists. But there are elements of Islam that are anti-dog, actually. Cats, I guess, are okay, so, one positive, one silver lining on a dark cloud, I suppose. But this is textbook animal abuse. Should be investigated as such, too. Like, I'm hoping that the local authorities there were made aware of this happening, because there's probably a law against it there, in whatever crack shack area he's in his state. My assumption is that it's probably illegal. In fact, I believe it's been upgraded to a felony now, animal abuse has. Well, maybe he can go and sleep with James Comey. I'm sure that they would get along famously. That's about all. Peace out.
Do we have footage of that? Can I watch the little dog get shocked?
Just look up Hassan Piker shock collar. Hate when YouTube randomly has those glitches. God, I should probably check my bank account too. I'm only getting a couple things. All right, everyone. In the wake of reports about Jay Jones' text messages to a colleague from several years ago that have gotten released now, it's a headache for the Democratic Party. The local and state Democratic Party, by the way, refusing to unendorse him, refusing to call him out. He's trying to run for Attorney General there in the state of Virginia. Do you really want somebody who makes these kinds of comments to be your top cop? I don't think that's a good idea. I believe that early voting has already been happening, though, so we'll see what effect, if any, it has on the race. Specifically, he was speaking about Todd Gilbert, another person in politics in the state of Virginia. And he was talking privately with a colleague and said, well, I wish he was dead. Gun to head, if I only had 2 bullets and I could kill Hitler, Pol Pot, or Todd Gilbert, I'd put 2 bullets in his head. Then he rambles about how he wanted to kill his kids, and that they should be shot, and that he hopes specifically that they died in their mother's arms. Sounds like a real great potential attorney general now, doesn't it, state of Virginia? That's a great idea. This person, I'm sure, would be so good at upholding the law there in your fine state. The fact that the legacy media, and they're being called out on this right now, there's virtually no coverage of this story. It's effectively a blackout by most media sites. The only one that's going to report on it, of course, will be Fox News, giving it importance. But that doesn't really matter because I'm assuming the average Fox News viewer is probably not inclined to vote for Jay Jones, especially after this. So it's going to be a headache for Democrats because now more independent commentators are weighing in. It's putting pressure on the legacy media to at least topically cover the subject. And so, other than the fact that you've already had hundreds of thousands of people vote early, when he was maybe riding higher, I suppose, because this will damage his credibility, I'm assuming, with anyone that knows that it happened at all. Keeping in mind it only matters whether Virginians know about it, of course, they're the ones that are voting in the state's election. If it gets more sunlight, sunlight's the best disinfectant. I have a feeling that people would probably, after comments like this, probably reject him. And some people are, of course, they're making the connection with Charlie Kirk and some of the commentary that people on the left have made in the wake of that. And it's like, some of these people will be like apologists, say, well, only a tiny number of people are like, on the left, get violent, stuff like that. It's actually right-wing violence is the problem. Well, then why does it seem so correlated with having a D after your name that this sort of thing is happening? And again, why is there no attempt to pressure the legacy media in the most direct sense to actually acknowledge that this even happened? That, believe it or not, there are still people who pay attention to legacy media, and just not as many as used to be, which is, I think, a good thing for the United States. So this is going to be a problem. The headaches begin once they're forced to report on it, and that could happen. Of course, the election looming. This is sort of the 11th hour October surprise sort of thing that you can get, and I have a feeling that it will play a role in the election. Let's say that you support his broader liberal ideology. Do you support that particular messaging with regards to people who you happen to politically oppose? I don't, generally speaking. I think that there are very, very few instances in which a person should be criticized in such a manner and that it should be considered acceptable. For instance, if it were like a Pol Pot or something. But the fact that a person is a member of the Republican Party or opposed you in a political campaign or something like that, to say this sort of thing, it's just unbecoming. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm not sure why you would direct your ire, by the way, towards his children anyway, regardless of the situation. Last I checked, they were not elected officials. They're his kids. So it's a little different. Hell, even criticism of like presidential kids throughout time. I've always strenuously avoided that bandwagon. Like when Obama's daughter there was smoking weed and everyone flipped out. It's like, okay, 18-year-old kid is smoking a substance that is, relatively speaking, legal in a lot of places. Oh my God, what a terrible day. A college kid just smoked a reefer. Nobody really cared. A lot of people were, it was something to chuckle about maybe. They're not elected officials. If Barack Obama, snorted a line off of the White House desk or something, that might become a problem because that's somebody who is representing the country. But Melania Obama was not representing anything other than, hey, I'm on spring break, I decided to smoke weed. Again, what a terrible sin. As far as I know, Todd Gilbert didn't do anything particularly to warrant any ire at all. Certainly not his kids. I doubt that Jay Jones ever met them. So, it's sort of like the song People Are People by Depeche Mode. I've never even met you, so what could I have done? That rings true in some cases. But he's going to be a problem. It's going to be a real big problem when what'll happen is that some Democrats will come out and condemn. And then there will be pressure on him to back off, basically. I don't even know that Jay Jones himself has apologized for having made these comments. I don't believe that he has, actually. Basically just ignores the issue and doesn't want to talk about it. I wonder why. Sort of like Hassan Piker's dog training program. That's about all. Peace out. Alright everyone, Michigan is about to embark upon a great adventure to prove to everyone once again that government is so piss poor at managing things, it can't even successfully sell marijuana. Michigan, case in point, 24% new tax to be levied between production and distribution at dispensaries, of course, in the state of Michigan that are selling marijuana. This will raise the cost, obviously. And therefore, people are more likely to seek weed that's not from the dispensary. Which, by the way, doesn't really help with the fentanyl problem because, you know, the dude that's selling for half price in the alleyway, you know, good luck. You're going to have to do quality control, but you can't do it unless you have your own home laboratory to test the weed or something like that. In which case, you can probably afford the dispensary prices anyway. California has this problem. A lot of the weed growers and so forth fairly quickly dried up because California is going to tax it, make it more expensive, and you can't really compete with people that are capable of selling it for 50% of what the overhyped government price is going to be. Also, a lot of people grow their own weed, and I believe that's still illegal in the state of Michigan. So there's not necessarily that workaround, but I mean, come on. This is cannabis. It's been big in demand for thousands of years. It's not going anywhere. It's called weed for a reason because it's literally a fucking weed. You can't eradicate it. It would be physically impossible. It's also native in certain parts of the world. And anyway, even if you made it an extinct species, then people would just make synthetics, which are far more harmful. Weed is a, as they call it, less harmful drug. Yeah, you're still getting tar in your lungs and cough, cough, wheeze, wheeze and stuff like that. It is still going to affect your ability to drive or something like that potentially. But, I mean, is it really a scourge? Tobacco's legal. Alcohol's legal. Fentanyl overdoses are all over the place now. Michigan is going to manage to take something that you shouldn't be able to lose money on. Like, if I were to grow weed, like if I had a little pot farm out somewhere, it would be structurally impossible because of the massive return that you get on those plants. It's the ultimate cash crop. It shouldn't even be possible to go out of business or lose money on a transaction or anything. And that's accounting for the fact that some plants may fail. Some may not do particularly well. Maybe there was a prolonged drought. They didn't produce as much as they were supposed to. Your buds were small. You'd still be able to make a significant amount of money per plant with relatively low input and effort. It's a relatively streamlined process. It's a fucking plant, stick the seedling in the ground, wah-wah, fertilizer, you know, chemical, natural, otherwise, who gives a shit, and you're good to go. You just gotta have the good location, decent soil, and basically know how to grow a plant, a fucking plant. Michigan, I predict, will end up losing a bunch of money. They're trying to use the taxes to in Whitmer's words, fix the damn roads. So in order to fix the shitty roads up in Michigan, they have to resort to destroying the weed industry up there, which is probably what's going to happen. Again, we've seen this in several other states already. Well, we'll legalize it. You can smoke it. You can only get it from a dispensary. And you can grow it, but only for the dispensaries. See, here in Vermont, we have a different system. There is the weed industry and dispensaries and all of this sort of thing. And you've got the quality control and the checks and everything else that, somebody wants to smoke pot, but they don't want to take a chance buying it off the street, and maybe they don't have that green friend that they can turn to in their time of weed need. But you can also grow plants for your own consumption. It's 2 adult plants per human adult in the household. So if you had like a family of 4, you could grow 8 plants. This is legal. Anything more than that, you need a permit. But seriously, the average person with 2 fully developed adult weed plants, they're going to be able to smoke that off for a very, very long time. Again, with virtually no actual output other than digging a couple of holes and, you put some black plastic wrap or something like that around and mulch them, to cut down on the maintenance costs. It's always a good idea. And ta-da! Okay, and you've got your weed, any kind that you happen to want and be able to get it by a local grower, because their strains, they change over time. If it's wildly popular, they're obviously going to have more of them available, and if they're less popular, maybe they get phased out. Sort of depends. And there's plenty of weedness going on all over the country. Not a big problem. And I have always opposed the idea of taxing it at all. I don't think that we need that sort of system. Let people grow their own, or buy it from a friend, or they can get it from a dispensary. And we don't need to subsidize the dispensary process either. Again, only government getting involved can possibly make something like marijuana unprofitable. It should, again, be fundamentally impossible for it not to make you money or supply, enough weed for you yourself to smoke. Considering the amount of bud you can get off of one plant, how much are you fucking smoking? At some point, maybe you need to ask yourself if you need to calm down a little bit. Oh yeah, I'm up to a 1/4 ounce a day. Oh, I just smoked 10 pounds of weed, or stuff like that. People will do stupid. I mean, if it's like college kids and they're just greening themselves out on a dare or something, whatever. Take it a little bit lighter on the weed, though, everyone. Michigan is going to ruin marijuana, and it'll be funny. It'll be amusing, honestly, because government is uniquely, the only edifice that could possibly make that happen. The government can lose money on virtually everything, and because they don't care. They're not using their own money or anything. They're just going to take more taxes, on the weed and try to repair the roads. But you're going to knock some of these people entirely out of business because sales will decline because people are going to buy it from their friends. Or they'll surreptitiously grow a plant for themselves anyway in their basement, and there's not a whole lot the government can really do about that sort of thing. It's sort of like if they tried banning alcohol, look how well that worked out. Yeah, speakeasies were never really a thing. By the way, Speakeasy Cafe here in Rutland, Vermont, really good stuff. Really, really funny, and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to allow the government to fiddle around with the weed market. It's like, hey, it destroyed everything else it touched. Every other industry that it got involved with made it less efficient, more expensive, and more time-consuming about everything, and bloated just like bureaucracy tends to be. But this time, this time they'll succeed. Just ignore the historical precedent of other states that have tried this particular style of system. That's about all. Peace out. Only one more to go. Whoops, that one was still uploading. Is it still uploading or did I just goofy myself? Wait, my first video's not up either? Why didn't it load? That's wrong. Oh, I see, it's just being really slow. Actually, had that topic All right, everyone, it's time for today's new tech exclusive. Got to talk a little bit about Amelia Earhart, actually. The Trump administration ordering the declassification of everything related to Amelia Earhart. So now they're looking through the archives, so to speak, to see what they've got. Here's what I suspect will happen. There's a pretty good chance that that one particular plane-like looking object off of the shore of Howland Island is the Lockheed Electra that Earhart flew. It is likely. That area has been hit by storms and stuff like that, so it might not be in its original location anyway by now. It could have been further out and washed ashore during a storm or something like that. They have found remnants from the Lockheed. They've never found any human remains. And in some cases, it looks like these basically floated to shore. And so it doesn't really necessarily indicate where it was originally. So there's a debris trail, so to speak. And keep in mind, it's been close in on 90 years now. The plane probably is not fully intact, so that might make identification a little bit more difficult. It's possible. I would note also, I'd be surprised if you didn't see, when these documents are all fully unredacted and released, I wouldn't be surprised if you find out that the government simply didn't know whether the radio transmissions which came from after the likely crash. It seems that for several days thereafter, there were sporadic and weak broadcasts from that area that possibly were Earhart. She might have survived. Her and Noonan probably were injured if they crashed. Presumptively, they got injured. They could have drowned right off. They could have, been ripped apart by debris or something like that. But there's a possibility that there actually was a period of time where they did manage to survive on the island. The problem is that there's not really any resources there. So where's your fresh water coming from? You better make sure to rig something up to catch rain, because you're going to run out of that real quick, because there's water everywhere, but don't fucking drink it, because then you'll become delirious and you will die. Yeah. Too much sodium, yeah, it can be a problem. Let's just put it that way. I suspect that they probably did survive. I happen to believe it, but I don't think you're going to get corroboration. I think what you're going to get is internal papers where they're discussing the possibility of it and saying, well, we're trying to follow up leads and stuff like that. I don't think you're going to get like the smoking gun magical picture of an aircraft and a couple of people waving on Howland Island. You're not going to get something like that. That would be too much to ask for. What you're going to get is more internal scuttlebutt over the situation and possibly new theories that get advanced. I would point out, though, that there's a separate group that's raising money for an in-depth exploration of the Howland object, and they're raising funds quite quickly, and they're still soliciting them. It's entirely possible that they will be able to figure out what it is, and it could be that it's not that plane. It could be a different plane, or it could just be an object that resembled a plane when the silt was washed away after a storm briefly. It could be that it's a natural feature. They're not sure. But I think that all of this and more will be discussed. I'm sure that the famous supposed Japanese flag photo, that probably was discussed in basically anything that has been discussed with regards to this particular disappearance already is probably in government documentation. It's probably basically a laundry list of the same things that other people have already been looking into for decades and decades, keeping in mind how many searches have been conducted since they were declared dead, her and Noonan. I don't even know how many. Private, government, etc., scientific explorations, amateurs. I'm sure other people have just taken boats out into the area and attempted to scope things out. And this plane, assuming it is the right one, again, it could be it could be a plane, but be a different one. It's entirely possible. I believe it's in a fairly shallow area of water, if I remember correctly. That it was visible via normal imaging, actually laying there right off the shore. I don't know, is that like 15, 20 feet of water or something like that? By the way, Byland looks beautiful. It's just you quickly dehydrate if you don't go there without proper supplies. That would suck, by the way, dying of dehydration when you don't even have any tree cover to sit under. That would suck. It was not a fun death, I'm sure. That's about all. Peace out.